Thank you. If you'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please remain standing. We're going to have one verse of God Bless America. Judy, will lead us.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, white and foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
A few guideposts. After an article has been read, moved, and seconded, I'll ask for discussion. I'll acknowledge the speakers, and a microphone will be brought to you to speak. Please speak into the mic so everyone can hear you. When voting, you have a blue card. Please vote with your blue card, either for or against the article. If there's a secret ballot, and there will be a secret ballot, you'll tear off either the yes or the no and place it in the voting box here, or Karen will pass along you with a little basket that you can put into it if you also wanted to. At this time, I'd like to request a motion to dispense with the reading of the full warrant and start with Article 7.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Article 7, the operating budget. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the select board's recommended operating budget of the town in the amount of $3,488,869, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately. Have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. This time I'd like to recognize Barbara has a motion. Would she like to speak to?
Yes, thank you, Jerry. We will ask if there are any questions, but there is one change that we are going to have to make. That is an addition of $2,000 for the assessor line item in the budget. Knowing that we can't change line items on the budget, this will just increase the total budget to $3,490,869. This came in after our budget hearings, so that's why it is post of the report printing. Are there any questions on that or any other budget questions?
So first we're going to vote on the amended amount. The amended amount is $3,490,869. Is that a motion? Any discussion on that change? All in favor? Aye. I was just advised that my hearing aids were giving a return on the mic. So now I can't hear a thing. Okay, so we're going to vote on the operating budget of $3,490,869. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Appropriation to the capital reserve fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $383,190 to be placed in the following capital reserve funds. $140,000 to the Fire Department Truck Capital Reserve Fund. Current balance is $266,941. Number two, $125,000 to the Road Reconstruction Capital Reserve Fund. Current balance is $95,007. $125,000 to the Highway Capital Reserve Fund. Current balance is $162,929. $50,000 to the Highway Heavy Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. Current balance is $164,769. $15,000 to the Police Cruiser Capital Reserve Fund. Current balance is $31,585. $27,690 to the Solar Energy Capital Reserve Fund. Current balance is $91,400. Can I have a motion?
Point of order, Jerry.
Say.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator. I just wanted to correct that the Fire Department Truck Capital Reserve Fund, the amount is $40,000, not $140,000.
Yeah, Fire Department is $40,000 to the current balance of $266,941. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Article 9, appropriation to the expendable trust funds. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $140,000 to be placed in the following expendable trust funds previously established. $5,000 to the transfers. Current balance is $51982. $5,000 to the state aid reconstruction. Current balance is $26397. $50,000 to the bridge repair expendable trust fund. Current balance is $1,556. $15,000 to the police equipment expendable trust fund. Current balance is $3,631. $20,000 to the fire department expendable trust fund. Current balance is $31,537. $8,000 to the balloon groundwater expendable trust fund. Current balance is $137. $7,000 to the fire department emergency radio communications expendable trust. Current balance is $7,037. $10,000 to the town office building maintenance and repairs expendable trust fund. Current balance is $5,990. $10,000 to the highway building maintenance and repairs trust fund. Current balance is $8,970. $10,000 to the town parks and building maintenance repairs trust. Current balance is $10,052. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Article 9 passes. Article 10 is the social services. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,318 to support the following. Children Unlimited, $4,000. Tri-Community Action, $2,313. Gibson Center, $4,000. White Mountain Community Health, $1,680. Conway Area Humane Society, $2,000. Starting Point, $4,109. Northern Human Services, $716. Eastern Slope Regional Airport, $1,000. Way Station, $3,000. North Conway Community Center, $1,500. Jackson Chamber of Commerce Fireworks, $4,000. Jackson Chamber of Commerce Beautification Project, $2,000. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of Article 10? Opposed?
Jerry?
Your hand?
Peter?
Sorry, I didn't raise my hand quickly enough.
Peter.
Oh, thank you.
Just one question. Most of you know where this is going. All the requests seem to be flat or very modest, but the airport has doubled their request. Is there any reasoning behind that request from 500 to 1,000? Thank you.
Any response to Peter's?
Right here, Jerry. Microphone. Right here.
I represent the White Mountain Regional Airport, formerly the Eastern Slopes Regional Airport. We increased a little bit because we did a number of capital construction improvements. The airport has to co-fund that at 2.5% to 5%. The money comes from the state and the FAA. And one very important feature of the airport are emergency services. Last year, MedFlight of Maine made 71 flights into the airport to come over to the valley and to Memorial Hospital. And we basically break even every year. So we're asking towns for just a little more increase in the budget. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor of Article 10? Opposed? Article 10 passes. Article 11, to establish sidewalk maintenance and repairs capital reserve fund. To see if the town will vote to establish a sidewalk maintenance and repairs capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the purpose of maintaining and repairing the town sidewalks and to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the fund. Further, to name the select board as agents to expend said fund. Have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion?
I've been here for 23 years. and it
Hold on,
seems
the
certain-
microphone's coming your
Can
way.
you test that calculation?
I've been here for 23 years and the sidewalks seem to be clean. How did we pay for it before?
Are you okay with that? This is part of a state initiative that the town is paying a portion of for the highway, or for the sidewalk repairs. So if you'll walk the loop in Jackson, there are quite a few areas that need extensive repairs. So we haven't allocated much capital to the sidewalk repairs in the past.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry, would you state your name for the record before we end?
Charles Bichet.
Thank you, that's for the minutes, I appreciate it.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of Article 11? Opposed? Article 12. Modify the Veteran Services Connected Total Disability Tax Credit. Shall the town of Jackson vote in accordance with RSA 72:27-A to modify the provisions of RSA 72:35 previously adopted for the optional tax credit for $1,900 for a service total and permanent disability. The current property tax credit amount is $1,400 and was last set by the town in 2004. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on Article 12? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Article 12 passes. 13, prohibit games of chance not limited to Keno. Shall the town of Jackson prohibit the operation of games of chance, including but not limited to Keno, within the town? Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on Article 13?
Jerry, I'd like to just make a few comments because I was asked 3 times today alone if what was actually being voted on here. The state required all towns to specifically mention the game of Keno in the warrant article. So if you vote yes for this, this would prohibit Keno along with other games of chance in Jackson. If we don't specifically state and it's voted no, and it's not specifically stated to limit Keno, then we could prohibit gambling, but Keno would be allowed. Does that make sense? So a yes vote would say prohibit Keno, a no vote would leave it out of the ordinance. And Angus, I see your hand there. Do you want to grab? You can walk up if you'd like, or
Wasn't this voted on as well on the, when we voted on?
there was a vote on Tuesday that was through the planning board, and this is a different part of the ordinance through the select board. Same thing, the same initiative.
Does everyone understand how the voting will go? I mean, how they want to vote? Any questions at all about that? Okay. All in favor of Article 13? Aye. Opposed? Article 13 passes. Article 14 is a petitioned article. Shall the town of Jackson vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $9,000 for the purpose of purchasing 2 Shield 15B speed displays in order to monitor and enforce traffic violations as well as conduct traffic studies? Equipment will be maintained and deployed by the Jackson Police Department. A motion?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on Article 14?
Eric Mogensen, Jackson. We really believe in this. We've definitely seen a lot of our guests struggle with their recognition of speed coming up the road, to put it nicely. Generally, the people we see speed and hit our parking attendants have white plates with red letters on them. And I believe, Frank, we brought up that we would actually donate the $9,000, the entire $9,000 for this. And so we don't want this to come out of the town's budget. Certainly that may affect the way you vote, but we'll definitely publicly commit to this. So thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor of Article 14?
Yeah, I have a question just on the portion of the system we enforce the traffic violations. Now, will that be like some cities have adopted where they fix the license plates and they fine according to the mechanical means? And will this enable that in the future if that's not something that could happen right now if we go through this?
Chief, would you want to comment on that?
Well, the
Microphone.
the speed sign initiative is a project of Lieutenant Moser. So I'll let him speak to that, if you don't mind, because he's kind of a material resident expert on the matter. Take it away, LT.
I'm learning lessons. So the ones that we're looking at right now, the state of New Hampshire doesn't allow you to write tickets just based off of a camera picture, but it would have that capability if it changes down the road. But it will tell us times of day, areas, and that sort of information to then help us put an officer in that area for the coming Saturdays or the coming Sundays to be able to enforce it.
But this does leave open the possibility in the future that the mechanical means issue speeding tickets could happen.
Yes.
Okay, I would oppose that. I don't want random mechanical devices issuing tickets.
It would, in itself doesn't issue the ticket. It would relay it back to us, and we would then be able to act.
I know, we have them down in Conway, they have them, and it does make you quite aware of the speed and the flashes and whatnot, but it's the enforcement portion that, if that were struck, if that were, the enforcement portion were out of that, then I would be all for it. But to leave that wide open later on, I mean, next year somebody comes out with it and we have those already, and they just upgrade, and then here you go, you start getting speeding tickets in the mail for the 132.
So that would have to be passed through state legislation to allow us to.
Okay.
Mike, closer to the voice.
I was just saying, that would have to get passed through state legislation before we would be able to write tickets based off of camera devices or any sorts that are unmanned by police officers.
Sarah?
Yes, my name is Sarah Clemens. I live at 76 Green Hill Road, and I just would like to make sure that when these devices are purchased, that we might be able to have it. We have a small hamlet once you get on Green Hill Road. We have Nordic cross-country skiers crossing the road, and people are traveling at a high rate of speed from the top of Green Hill down, and also at a high rate of speed going up. It's a dead end, but it's still a road that is highly trafficked with climbers, skiers, and so on. And I'd appreciate it. I've been after the town for probably 10 years on this. In fact, some of the children that are there are now in college, so it's been something I've been trying for years, and I'm glad to hear you're going to pursue it.
Thank you, sir. Any comments?
Caitlin Strauss-Bauer, so to that point, are these going to be moved around in town, or are they going to be in two stationary permanent locations?
Yes, they will be portable. So they are similar to the ones that if you have driven on Intervale Cross and Kearsarge Road, I believe they're in that area, so they're similar to those, if I remember right, Meg?
Yes, and that would be the full intention, we will move them around town periodically at different points.
Angus?
Point of order.
Hold on.
Just a point of order. You still have to pass it even if the money's donated to the town.
That is correct. Just, Angus said, Dr. Badger said that even if the money is donated, we still do have to pass the petition article.
Okay, just as a point of information, the ones on in Conway, other than Pastor Conway Road has one that's portable, the other ones are permanent.
Yeah, I just want to make I just want to clarify something for Bob and for everybody else. The cameras that you see in Conway are not speed cameras. Speed cameras for enforcement are not allowed in the state of New Hampshire. The only camera enforcement that's allowed in the state of New Hampshire is everybody's favorite, Easy Pass. But you are not allowed to use cameras for traffic enforcement. The camera heads that you see in Conway are DOT traffic surveillance cameras for damage and the like. So there is 100% zero risk of camera enforcement associated with this warrant article. It can't be done, it's not allowed in the state of New Hampshire. In fact, when we looked into monitoring the bridge with cameras, we found out that we could not do that. You can't use license plate cameras in the state of New Hampshire either. So that is already prohibited by law. If sometime in the future, the legislature said that police can use that technology, well, that's a different conversation. But that should not be a component of your decision today because it's not a potential reality, and neither is it a thing that we're seeking.
I want to call for a vote on order.
Just one question. Hi, Martha Benish, grade 16 North. Does this monitoring or what we're describing here also include the state highways as well as the local roads, or is?
Yes.
It does include Route 16, Route 16B.
Where the police are able, where our police are able to police, they can move those.
Thank you.
Yes.
Molly Nova, I was just wondering, could you speak to the projected future costs after this, once equipment is purchased?
You'll have to vote now on Article 14. All Again, I can't hear.
Yes, so the ones that we are getting, we will be able to retrieve the data by plugging into the computer or through Bluetooth, and that does not cost any money moving forward. This is the cost, is what the cost is. It does have the capability, if we chose to, be able to access that information from anywhere in the US. I would be able to look it up on my phone, and that would cost $1,500 per year per unit. But as of right now, we are not looking to spend that additional money. It's just because we have the accessibility to get it through Bluetooth standing beside it anyways.
Any further discussion?
I got a question. Have the number of speeding tickets gone up dramatically?
They have since we hired Will.
I'd just like to address that more from a statistical answer, that it's not necessarily that the number of speeding tickets have increased, because we try not to make our police department so much a revenue center through tickets, but what it is, it's really preventing or helping with our public safety because of the amount of traffic that we have seen increase in the town. And as Sarah said, she has been asking for some kind of monitoring system on Green Hill Road. Black Mountain Road is certainly an area. Route 16 is an area. So the more that we can do to incentivize people to slow down and take their time, the better off we'll be. If we have to issue tickets, then so be it. But this is not as much of an incentive to do that as it is to promote public safety. I hope that answered your question.
But there's more of an incentive now than there was.
Obviously.
All in favor of Article?
I'm Lisa D. Moser. I'm on Green Hill Road as well, and I know this is not part of the article, but there has been some hope of returning the speed limit that used to start just after the transfer station and the Red Fox Pub used to be 30 miles an hour. And that went to Harmon's store. And it would be very much appreciated if we go back to 30 miles an hour. It's very frightening to be trying to turn onto Green Hill Road and be looking in your rearview mirror, watching pickup trucks that are loaded with ATVs and snow machines, and they're coming up on you so fast that sometimes I just have to gun it and go turn around at Donnie's garage, because I'd rather do that than be rear-ended. So at some point in time, it would be nice to talk about modifying that speed. I've also suggested I would like to see us choose a speed limit for the town. 35 miles
Lisa,
an hour.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you just because I want to stay on point and make sure everyone gets to speak. Please bring that up at a future select board meeting on the agenda so we can raise it as a topic and investigate it from that point. I appreciate your interest in it, but it's not something that we can even decide on or talk about tonight. Thank you.
Hi, Jane Nell, Thornhill. Question, if the state legislature does pass using the monitoring for tickets, is that something that we would then approve, or does the state passing it means it goes into effect?
I would say that anything that the state puts into place, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, a petition warrant article could be brought forth in the town to be more, more lenient on that subject. But Mike, you can probably answer better on that one.
I would say if it's me still here, I personally would not trust to go that route. I prefer that the officers have discretion and be able to see things in their own eyes and handle it themselves personally instead of going based off of what some computer thinks of.
Any other discussion?
Will Reisig. Officer Mosher, would I be correct in inferring from previous discussion that the point of the cameras is not necessarily to find traffic violators and issue them tickets? It's more to the point of what the article says, to monitor traffic studies and determine where officers might, prioritize being posted in order to observe these speeding violations and then act at their discretion.
Yes, 100% right. The camera function will actually be shut off, and so will, you see some of them flash the speed limit. We are actually not allowed to have that flashing, so it will just be a pop-up display of what your speed is. The camera function will not be on because of that. So.
I'm going to call the article. All in favor of Article 14? Aye. Opposed? Article 14 passes. Article 15 is a petition article about the fireworks. It's going to be a secret ballot.
Microphone.
Article 15 is a petition ballot. It will be done in secret. I'll read the article and we can move and second it. Article 15, petition article. Commercially licensed fireworks event shall only be permitted to be held within the village district in the town of Jackson. Commercially licensed fireworks event shall only be permitted in Jackson Village District as defined by the Jackson zoning ordinance. No commercially licensed fireworks events shall be permitted on private or town-owned property located outside the village district. Any such event within the village district shall comply with all local, state, and federal laws, ordinances, regulations, and permitting requirements. Fireworks are defined as an explosive pyrotechnical device used for aesthetic entertainment purposes. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Where are we referring to this?
Hold, before we ask questions, Jerry, could we defer to Emily Porath, who presented the petition first?
Okay, is Emily here?
Elaborate.
Can we get Emily a mic?
Yep, here we go.
Thank you. Good point.
Thank you. My name is Penny Korak, and I work with a number of petitioners who are longtime community members who share support for this warrant article. We all hold core beliefs in support of quiet rural neighborhoods, concern for the safety of wildlife, pets, livestock, and being good stewards of the lands and waters of Jackson. We feel that this article preserves celebratory community traditions while supporting these core beliefs. First, a definition of the rural residential area versus the village district. The village district is defined as the area of Route 16 and 16A, and then 500 feet plus. So where the J-Town Deli is, the Wildcat Tavern, Wentworth, that area is considered the village district. Currently, commercial firework events can occur anywhere in town as long as they meet a 350-foot setback from buildings and other basic state and town regulations through a permitted process. This means that fireworks can be permitted on both golf courses, up Carter Notch Road, or by the old airport, or any open area, as long as the setback and permitting process is met. From a personal perspective, there's a couple people who are going to speak from different perspectives. Mine is unique in that I have decades of personal experience raising horses, cattle, poultry, pigs, pets, children, as well as a very famous llama. I speak with passion from this experience and personally support this effort from a wildlife and animal safety perspective, as well as to keep the rural residential areas quiet. The fear, panic, and terror fireworks cause our pets is well demonstrated by the multi-billion-dollar industry of doggy downers, kitty calmers, and anxiety wraps. For anyone who has ever tried to console a pet during fireworks or thunder, it is heartbreaking. On a larger, more dangerous scale is an 1,100-pound pregnant cow, add horns onto that, in a herd of 20, and it is terrifying. I personally help and try to lessen the impact of fireworks to the neighborhood cattle. This past January, we had 5 sets of LED headlights blinding the cows in an attempt to lessen the flares and flashes for them. Unfortunately, the cattle are not amenable to ear protection, and the threat of calves getting trampled, a pregnant mom aborting, or getting injured falling on ice are real dangers. The herd, should they run through a fence, would pose a significant danger to themselves and others, especially those who need to recover them. Work before and during an event is not without danger or risk. This year, the ice was a significant hazard to us, whether on foot or in a tractor. Another concern is the heavy metals and debris and pollutants that fall on pasture and adjacent land and waterways. It has been stated that firework companies pick up debris. We have not found that this is true. However, it drifts with the wind and it's impossible to locate and pick up in the snow and tall grass. Heavy metals and perchlorates are well documented to bioaccumulate in soils and subsequently ingested by cattle, birds, and wildlife. It is my understanding that the golf course, Wentworth, is no longer welcomes fireworks, partially due to cardboard, plastic, and debris left behind. This past summer, there was also a complaint from town staff who had to pick up after the July 4th event due to the debris. Cattle and sheep grazing on the slopes of Black Mountain existed long before the ski area. The Roberts and Davis families have farmed these lands for over 8 generations. And since Bill and Betty Whitney turned pastures into winter fun, the ski area and neighbors have supported, welcomed, and respected each other for 95 years. It's a well-loved neighborhood that we all want to see prosper and thrive, and I support this effort through mutual respect and good stewardship of the land and care for our wild and domestic animals. With innovation...
Can I advise you that you've gone way over the time limit? Are you going to be done soon?
Yep, I have one more sentence. Didn't know there was time limit. With innovation, creative minds, and possibly technology, I know it's possible for another 95 years of farming, skiing, and success. I also know that it'd be a relief to know that firework events could not take place in other rural areas of town, helping meet the expectations of peaceful evenings and dark skies. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'd like to hear from the members of the board, since it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 0.
Stand by one moment.
Microphone.
Thank you.
Jeff Mayer. I'd like to hear from the board. It's 0, 1, 2 instead of 3, 0, 0 like all the other articles.
Can you hear me? All right.
No.
For those who didn't hear, the gentleman asked if he could hear some comment from the board as their initial recommendation was counted 0, 1, 2 instead of a recommendation, a recommendation of 3, 0, 0.
Care to comment?
Oh yeah. I've been pretty clear as to where I stood on this issue. This is How's that? Here we go. All right. Because I've been clear about the way I feel. And I think a couple of fireworks displays in town would be acceptable, as we've had in the past here now. The village, that's tradition. And I think that should always be there. And I think it will always be. As far as the second one is concerned, well, maybe they're starting a tradition up in Blackwood. Maybe it'll happen somewhere else. But, you know, they've done it up there, and I think the New Year's Eve celebration, they went off beautifully. 15 minutes, 7:45, a family affair, not a big drunk fest, and people really enjoyed themselves. So where I'm coming down is say vote no on this and allow us to at least give 2 permits. That's where I'm coming from.
Any other comments?
Hold on, we're going to all speak to this, Jerry. The 3 of us are going to speak to this first. The 3 of us are going to speak to this first, and then we'll take public comment.
Go ahead.
I was one of the votes that was abstaining on this petitioned article. And the select board agreed to a litigation settlement. And as part of that settlement, we agreed to allow 2 fireworks shows per year at Black Mountain Ski Area. So I was uncomfortable voting for that reason. And that's why I abstained when we voted on this petitioned article. And it's also why I'll be abstaining my vote tonight.
Same as Bob Thompson for my vote, or abstain from voting for this warrant article.
No question, then.
Any other comments?
Question.
Frank?
Given what we just heard about I'm sorry, this is Frank Benish, also 16 North, my wife. Given what we just heard about the settlement of the litigation and the agreement, what impact voting yes on this article have on that agreement, or what else might happen? Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'm not a lawyer, so I can't tell you what would happen. You know, Jason Dennis is our town attorney, and we've discussed it. There isn't any absolute next step that would take place. We have a request for a fireworks show up there that's probably going to be on our next meeting's agenda. Is it going to lead to future litigation? I have no idea. I don't know, Jason, if you want to comment on that at all?
I don't know either. The one thing I will say is, and this is just from my recollection of the agreement, my recollection is that it had a provision that if an article with regard to fireworks passed, that it would not be deemed a grandfathered use at Black Mountain, meaning that a successful article here could potentially impact them. But with legal questions, the answer I find myself often giving, that often results in eye rolling, etc., is maybe, or it depends. I obviously can't predict some other party or entity's desire for future litigation. Could that happen? Yes. Is there a language in the agreement that could forestall that? Also yes. So it just depends on the strength of the desire to have a fight, and that I can't control. Hopefully that partially at least answers the question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Peter?
Peter Benson. I find it curious, the town's kind of at cross purposes here in a number of ways. But first, to the article itself, while well-intentioned, I think it's somewhat discriminatory. Ever since the town passed the prohibition on personal use of fireworks, which I was against, but now I think is actually a good idea. So I think we should walk the walk and talk the talk if we're going to do this, and not put it into the village and not in another area. If the town's truly serious, we should work towards next year and have a fireworks ban in this town. But instead, we're not only not having a ban, we're actually funding fireworks in the village. So it's kind of strange. We're trying to have our cake and eat it too. I would recommend that we, well, people can do whatever they want, but I think if we're really serious about this, we need to treat fireworks as a town-wide issue, not as a district issue. Thank you.
Eric? Eric, stand by a moment, Eric.
I thank you, everyone.
Eric, can you stand by a moment?
Stand by.
Thank you.
Good evening, Peter McGlynn, 26 Merrill Lake. I'm not going to render any thoughts about the constitutionality or the legality of this. I too am a lawyer, but not representing the town. But I am troubled if we vote in favor of this particular regulation. Really what we're doing is going against what has apparently been a good faith settlement negotiation between the town and Black Mountain. Now think about that for the future. Any litigant is now going to have doubts as to whether or not their settlement, breached in good faith, is now going to be overturned by some petition article. That's going to have a significant impact on litigation strategy. It's probably going to drive up litigation costs for the town. And I'm not saying that this is going to be a wholesale problem, but I do think that it's a problem that requires serious consideration before you take a vote on this particular petition. Thank you.
Any other? Eric?
Hi, Eric Mogensen Jackson. My first town meeting, thank you. Really an incredible process. Look, on the merits, the petition as written, I would agree with Peter, doesn't make a ton of sense to me. If fireworks are that bad, then we should ban them across the entire town, and I'm certainly open to that discussion. I can't tell you if I would support it or not support it. As a business owner and as an owner of the largest employer in town, I think the fireworks are very important to us. And we did reach a very good faith deal to have 2 of them. The ordinance has no limit. We could potentially apply had we not reached an agreement for 1 every Thursday, but we came to a very, very good faith agreement to have just 2 a year, which is essentially our intention to have 1 on New Year's and 1 at some other point during the year. So I appreciate Penny's perspective. I appreciate the perspective for livestock. I appreciate the perspective on pollution, and I think we should have that conversation as a town in whole and not try to pass this through. And then I think finally to the question on litigation, I don't want this to be a vote as to whether or not we're going to litigate the issue. I want this to be a vote as to whether or not this is the right thing to do. Don't vote no because you're afraid Black Mountain is going to get in another fight with the town. Vote no because we want to have a conversation as a town as to how to move forward together. So as one of Jackson's newest residents, and I can promise you as one of its biggest supporters going forward, I would ask you to vote no on this. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Hi, Stephen Meter. I'm a resident in town. I have been attending a lot of selectmen's meetings lately, not by choice, only because I've been reporting on. I've been reporting on work that's been going on at the Jackson Historical Society. And one of the first meetings I attended to report on that work, I believe it was the first time I witnessed a meeting that involved discussions of business at Black Mountain. And at that meeting, Barbara, you were specifically begging Eric not to shoot off fireworks because you were concerned about the effects of those fireworks on Dean Davis's cows, and you reflected on your experience with the effects of fireworks with horses. I believe at some point you had horses. So that was the first time. You begged and you asked Eric to consider options because there are options. I'm not familiar with them personally, but there are drone options that create quite an impressive display without the noise and without the disturbance that affects the animals, as we've all heard about, and affects the neighbors. But that choice was not taken. So going into those discussions, I believe you personally were against the fireworks. No one else here were in the meeting to witness what you were up against, to negotiate what you did. And I applaud you for your efforts because it's been a long struggle. So you did your best with that agreement. And after that agreement was accomplished, I again happened to be in another selectmen's meeting, December 9th. I looked it up just to refresh. Weren't many people there. I asked about if the will of the people at a town meeting was to negate fireworks in the town in any form, would Black Mountain have to abide by that? And your answer was very clear. And not only your answer, but Eric and his attorney agreed that they would abide by that. So it was very simple and cut and dry, and here we are. So There's no issue with legality in my mind. You made it clear. I've read it. I'm not a lawyer, but I've read it. It's very clear. So I just ask the people of the town to vote their gut on this, and we'll see where it goes from there. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion?
Tish Hanlon, and I was at the same meeting where Eric said he would agree to it. But I think beyond that, I mean, Peter Benson's a good friend of mine, and this is a town meeting, and this is stuff that goes on at town meetings. But Peter, I wish you brought it up now and made a petition article yourself and brought it forward, because a lot of work has gone into this. And I think what Penny has said is really critical to why we choose to live in Jackson. We love wildlife, we love nature. Why would we subject these cows and wildlife and people who might have PTSD or something, why would we continue to subject them to it? Let's negate this, let's vote this now and say no fireworks outside of the village, and next year come back and say, if that's what we want, no fireworks even in the village district. Let's do it a step at a time, but why would you ever choose to do it? Having heard what Emily's saying, knowing that Eric said, I will go along with it, and move forward with this in a stepped plan. Who wants to hurt the wildlife of our town? And that's why we live here. That's all.
Any further discussion?
Larry Garland, Jackson. I just want to know if the agreement that you made with the town in Black Mountain to allow 2 firework displays, does that agreement specifically say pyrotechnics, or could they also be, for example, drone displays?
It is specific to fireworks.
Specifically pyrotechnics?
It is specific to fireworks.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Lisa De Moser on Green Hill Road. I just want to point out there is wildlife within the village district as well, just so we're all clear. And there are rivers, and I think we need to be mindful of this. We would all like a peaceful community. We would like it peaceful in the village district at times too. We all have to be good stewards and be good neighbors. We have to support each other. Many businesses are suffering through this pandemic and continue to suffer. I want to see Eric succeed. I want to see other businesses succeed. I love animals. I don't want to see any harm come to them. But we all have wildlife. I had 27 Siberian Huskies at one time on Green Hill. And they were also affected by fireworks. They did have houses. We did bring them inside. If there is a barn available, perhaps that would be a good use of it. I'm not saying no, I'm just pointing out we all want peace and we all want to enjoy our community.
Angus Badger. I too have livestock, and I think if the fireworks were next door to me, I think I would share a lot of Penny's concerns and anybody else that has animals. But I think we all have animals, we all have pets anywhere in the village. For me, this is really a question of whether we should be legislating from the floor in a fairly arbitrary way against really a particular business owner. And I think behavior comes into this, and I think being a good neighbor. If somebody was doing this close to me, I would certainly want them to come to me. I want to know what the options were to mitigate the impact on my animals. I want forewarning. And if I didn't have a way to shelter them or keep them out of it, I might need help with that. But I don't feel that we should be legislating from the floor on what seems arbitrary. I think the discussion about fireworks in general we can have and decide as a town.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Hi, this is Michael Porteous, resident of Jackson. First and foremost, second, what Peter said, I do feel that this is discriminatory in some way, shape, or form against black, to be blunt. We all know this is not black. I think the other thing I just want to call out is, first off, appreciate the concerns about the animals, and I think we've been focusing a lot on the negatives. I actually think it was a real positive. We had an amazing, I live on Whitney Hill, directly impacted by this, and we had an amazing fireworks display for this January 1st for New Year's. We had, Eric, I don't know how many people, 1,500, give or take, that came. I'd say there were probably 50 to 100 kids who absolutely enjoyed themselves. Our kids definitely did, and I think it was well organized. It was incredibly safe. We had the fire department there, and I think it was wrapped up by 9:30, because it was 15 minutes. So I don't want to discount the fact that this also brings value to the town, and people really enjoy it, myself and my family included.
Hi, I'm Chantal Capone, and I'm from Jackson. I agree with Mike on it brings people into the town. If Black Mountain could just let people know, his neighbors, 6 months in advance, 3 months in advance, whatever, to let them know that they're doing fireworks on such and such a day. They can put those animals in a barn for their safety. Wildlife is wildlife. We live in Jackson, there's wildlife all over the state of New Hampshire. I love wildlife, everybody knows that, that knows me. I don't think that should be a big, big issue if we all work together and be happy people and neighbors.
Steve Pietro, Sugar Hill Lane. I have a short story. And I actually didn't really feel strongly one way or the other about fireworks before this past New Year's. My wife and I decided we would walk from our house up to Black to see the fireworks. And we took a route through the woods, going on the circuit trail and then coming out about 3/4 of the way up the mountain. And we walked and enjoyed the fireworks. It was spectacular. It truly was. I mean, I'd never seen a fireworks display like that. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. So we walked home the next morning. I didn't think anything of it, but I went back out in the woods. And I discovered it was a cold morning. It was January 1st. It was about 15 degrees, and I saw bear tracks. So we're talking about wildlife, but if you really want to talk about wildlife, let's talk about wildlife. I'd never seen bear tracks in the middle of January back in the woods, and I'm in the woods a fair bit. I actually tracked the bear tracks, and within about 200 yards, I came upon a big pine tree, and the bear had built itself a nest, a temporary nest out of pine boughs that it had evidently spent the night as a way to try to stay warm, and then it had moved on, and it moved on across the river, probably heading over towards Eagle. So I know, I'm drawing a conclusion here, and other people can draw their own conclusions, but it seemed pretty clear to me that there was only one reason that bear was up and moving around on a cold, cold January day. And I know we have a pretty big bear population in Jackson. It's something we pride ourselves on. And I know at Black there are plenty of denning locations, also on Eagle. I can only imagine what the spectacular noise generated by those fireworks caused actual, real wildlife in the surrounding woods of Jackson.
Emily?
Emily Denson, Jackson. So we definitely heard different perspectives on this issue so far. I'm just reflecting a lot myself on the zoning of our town when we have the village district and the rural residential district. And been looking through those different regulations and uses permitted, and to me, sort of picks up on what Tish was saying, the rural residential district in a town does not seem suited for very loud, big gatherings of folks along the lines of having a fireworks display. So I'll just put that out there. Rural residential versus a village district, so it could be a zoning issue coming forward. Thank you.
All right.
Can I have the last 30 seconds of my time? Thank you so much.
I just want to point out real quick on the bear conversation, and I really do appreciate that you appreciated the fireworks and that you thought maybe that the fireworks had caused the bear to get up and do the things. And it's somewhat remarkable we're arguing about a bear's behavior over this thing, but we do have a really cool video of the bear actually walking around the ski area for some time, 7 days before the fireworks. So I think facts matter, and that's the fact that I'll bring up. Thank you.
Will Reisig, I may be backpedaling a bit on this conversation, but I'd like to ask the board or possibly the town attorney a question that occurred to me. It's been stated already that the select board and the ownership of Black Mountain have reached an agreement to settle some litigation and agree to permit 2 fireworks shows per year. Would that agreement and the article that we're set to vote on be mutually exclusive, or would it be possible, if this article was passed, to further refine the agreement with Black Mountain and the select board and come to a conclusion that would satisfy all parties?
Any further discussion?
I'm not going to answer that substantively because I can't, because I'm not the governing body and I'm not Eric Mogensen. But from a procedural perspective, agreements can be modified. And so, mutually exclusive, no. There's, for me, in my approach, in the way I advise clients, whether it's a business, a person, or a municipality, there's always something to be explored to make a deal that can be a win-win. And that's how I've tried to approach this issue. I think, I can't speak obviously for Eric, but I do think he has tried to approach it in that way, at least to some extent. He I'm sure would tell you that. And I know that the select board has. And so to the extent that that answers your question of what if, I think I can get only partially there, because it would depend on what the governing body and what what Eric Mogensen and the business entity would think. But it's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yes? Ken?
Ken Kimball, I would just want to point out that Eagle Mountain is also in the rural residential. And every Saturday night, I can hear their weddings. I don't object to it. I think it's just part of the business that exists here in town. So if this is a noise ordinance, I think it has to be broader than just fireworks.
Any other questions or comments?
Debbie Crozer, Black Mountain Road. I have to speak to that. We hear the weddings from Whitney's is a lot different than the noise from the fireworks. As many of you that have lived here a long time, we used to have the Oreo cows. If you remember those? I saw my cow when fireworks were going off. I saw the terror in his eyes, and I was helpless to do anything to comfort him, because I would have been stampeded. You know how big they were. You can put them in a barn, yes, but they're still going to get damaged. He was near the barn area because he was in sick bay, and I was just praying that he didn't break a leg that night. He didn't, but it was only by the grace of God. And putting him in the barn would have just meant that he would have run into something. You can't, dog in a house is different. And trust me, my dogs are all terrorized by fireworks too. But a dog in a house and a cow in a barn are not comparable. They're different sizes, different reactions, and the sound of the fireworks is in no way comparable to the sounds of the wedding.
Okay, I'd like to move the question now. As I said, it'll be a secret. No? I thought we had moved in a second. Last comment.
Wendy McVeigh, Wildflower Lane. After reading today's paper, which I think most of you have seen the back page, I was just thinking to myself, and I've only met Eric once, very briefly, at church a year ago. I was thinking to myself, why would this man want to put himself through a bunch of this malarkey in the thought of having legation that he would have to deal? He's got plenty of other places that he could live and move to, yet he chose to come to Jackson because, just think, in less than 2 years' time, he has been able to feel the life of Jackson and how much we all have appreciated living here. And he no doubt has felt the same way. And not only is he moving here, he's moving his 2 companies here. Now, all of you, some of you may be thinking about money, he's going to have to pay taxes. How are these taxes going to affect Jackson? I would suspect that it's probably going to help our taxes. In any case, I will also say I've had family that have skied there this winter, and they're big skiers that have skied all over the world. But this past weekend, they had a wonderful time up at Jackson. And not only that, they loved the friendship, the camaraderie, the fact that the kids were having a good time. Everybody was in a really good mood. And why would we want to keep picking on this guy until we just decide something that is not, we do need to make a decision on the fireworks. And to be honest, you know, I'm not a fan of fireworks, but I just think if we can come to some sort of a reconciliation and just calm down, that's all.
As I said, this will be a secret ballot. You can come forward and tear your vote either yes or no and put that in the box. And Karen will also pass among you with a basket that you can use if you don't want to trundle up here. So let's now have an orderly approach to this.
Can we do this by row order? When we were at the school meeting the other day, it was very tough.
Let's do this side of the room first, and then this side of the room second.
If everyone doesn't mind, please.
What's yes and what's no?
What I would love everyone to do is if we basically start from these seats, come vote, this row will sit, then where Jeff Maynard is and Judy Bosford, they'll come in and then they're gonna walk around to the outside and walk back into their seat. So the center will eventually come in, because during the school meeting, it was everyone came.
There's a question here, what does the vote yes or no mean?
Can I just read the warrant article one more time so everyone is clear on that? So the warrant article reads, commercially licensed firework events shall only be permitted to be held within the village district in the town of Jackson. So if you vote yes, that would mean that that fireworks would only be allowed in the village district. If you vote no, they could be anywhere in the town of Jackson. Clear?
If I have the first 2 rows come in, and what I will be doing, those who cannot get up, I will walk around with a basket for them.
I was like, I'm sorry, I know it's embarrassing. I was like, I felt it out, not my friend over there, right? They're like, I'm so Have you seen the Lexington Mass? It was
Well, we got that through. I knew that was going. Yeah.
I know. Hey. Good, how you doing?
That's our plan.
While the votes are being tabulated, we're going to move on to Article 16. I'm going to recognize the selectmen. They'd like to make an announcement.
Thank you. While votes are being tallied, I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Jerry Dougherty III and his wife Kathleen Dougherty, our treasurer. They have given this town years of service, not just as the treasurer and the moderator, but in various committees, as business owners, as parents, and Kathleen, if you would come up as well. They deserve our gratitude and our round of applause for at least We know you're not going very far because we're going to be calling you lots of questions and things, but again, thank you for all that you have done and continue to do for Jackson. And I'm going to hand the microphone over to Bob Thompson.
I also just want to take a moment while we're counting the vote to recognize Sarah Kimball. She's in the back of the room. Sarah, yeah, go ahead. And just in case you don't know, Sarah has been serving the planning board for 40 years, and we really appreciate her service. Thank you. One more, and then I'll give up the mic. Oh.
One for each? Yeah. One for each. Chief Pearlie, who served the town for 10 years, is leaving us for retirement in a few months. But it's been terrific. I think let's hear something together. I want to say something. And also, if you read his Jackson Police Department report, it's on page 88, but just the bottom of what he had to say about Lieutenant Mike Motion, okay, who I hope is our next chief. He says, I have watched him grow, and not just in skill and education, but in judgment and professional effort. His development has been one of the most satisfying things I have witnessed in my career. Jackson will be well served by his leadership long after I'm gone. That will be a legacy I will be proud of. And I hope that's the direction we're going. We've got a great
Article 16. Shall the town vote to call on the New Hampshire legislature to protect local taxpayers ensuing adequate state revenues for essential services and by avoiding policies that shift costs onto local property taxes? This question arises because recent state budgets have reduced or eliminated key revenue sources, forcing towns and counties to raise property taxes to maintain education, healthcare, county nursing homes, public safety, and infrastructure. These shifts burden working families and strain local budgets, limit flexibility, and undermine long-term community prosperity. A state budget that prevents cost shifting and restores municipal revenue sharing eases the tax burden on local property taxpayers and strengthens community. Be it further resolved that the Select Board Town Council shall send the results of this vote to the Governor and all members of the General Court representing Jackson within 30 days. Can move in second?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved to second. Any discussion? Hearing none.
No, here. Here.
Hello, I'm Ashley Fife. I live up on Carter Notch Road, and I wanted to say a little something about this, or an article. So what would this accomplish? It would, the article gives voters a direct voice in Concord, asking them to stop cost shifting and restore responsible budgeting. So why this might matter now is that recent state budgets have reduced or eliminated key revenue sources. As a result, towns and counties have been forced to raise property taxes to maintain public education, safety, roads, and infrastructure. These state-level decisions place burdens on working families, strain local budgets, limit flexibility, and undermine long-term community prosperity. Some examples have been state revenue that has been eliminated or reduced, includes interest and dividends tax, business profits tax, meals and rooms tax, and now funding gaps are now covered by the town and county through education funding, county services, and public safety. So if you know me, how does this apply to me? I'm a renter, but as we all know, there's a huge housing crisis and affordability crisis in the state of New Hampshire. We all know that is true in Jackson as well. And so for me and my partner to ever be able to buy property here, a lot of things need to change, including the fact that property taxes might be going up continues to affect myself and young people moving to the area. So a yes vote would accomplish this, is that it would say, voting yes would urge the legislature to stop shifting those costs and ensure the state pays its fair share for essential services. So please vote yes.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Article passes. Article 17, petition article. Shall the town vote to call on our legislators to protect taxpayers by requiring the Education Freedom Account program to provide physical and educational performance reports comparable to those required by public schools, and by limiting the eligibility to families with demonstrated financial need. Petitioners Cliff McAleer. Do I have a motion? Seconded? Chris, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you very much. I don't know what you all know about the Education Freedom Accounts, but what they started off as is a way to help lower income families whose children in public schools were not actually performing that well. So what happened is they went into the Education Trust Account to provide approximately $5,000 to each of these families. Well, over the years, and by the way, originally it was a low income level. So if you were above that level, you wouldn't get it. But they kept changing that and changing that and changing that. And right now there is no income limit at all. So what's happening right now is over the last 2 years, $100 million has gone into these funds. And the problem is that 85% of the participants never went to public school. So basically, we are subsidizing all income levels. We're subsidizing folks that have the money to send their kids to St. Paul's or Exeter or something like that. And that just ain't fair. And an outside firm in New York handles this program. And again, $100 million over the last 2 years. They get a 10% commission. A 10% commission, that's $10 million to run the program. The other problem is we get absolutely no feedback. They're supposed to give us feedback on test results or how the program's working, who's eligible for it or who's getting the money and what their income. We don't get any of that. We don't get any of that. So it really is a problem. Now, unfortunately, the horse is already out of the barn. We passed bills on this and we keep getting pushed back. But we're still trying. So I think a letter to the governor that would complain about this or what was happening is certainly worthwhile. Because again, these are your tax dollars. These are tax dollars that are not going to the public schools. They go into private schools, parochial schools, homeschooling, or quite frankly, any other program that somebody might have in mind. So I appreciate a yes on this board article, and I thank you for listening to me.
Any other comments?
Over here.
Frank?
Frank Benish, Jackson, on the north side of Jackson. Before this week, I didn't really know what an educational freedom account is and how it's used. Actually, I still don't. I appreciate Chris's opinion on this, but I'm reluctant to vote yes because I have not heard anything from the other side about what benefits this is, how it's managed, and I'm a little bit reluctant to get into that kind of minutia for something as small, as modest as this, within the state budget. My wife's over here frowning at me as I say this. I don't know whether I should write yes or no. I just don't know, and so that's for that reason I'm reluctant to vote one way or another. And you know, if we do something like this in the future, I certainly would appreciate somebody who can articulate the other side. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Melinda Foley-Marcello. I'm not going to articulate the other side, but I'll give you another reason to vote yes. This money is taking money away from the state education budget, which affects our taxes and affects how we fund our education. I think you said how $100 million over the past 2 years are going to, we don't know exactly where, and we need that money. We need that money for our school, we need that money for all public schools, and it's all being drained away. So please vote yes.
Hi, this is Michael Corthius. Some of you know I've spent a lot of time with school board and finances and whatnot over the years, and I'm not actually going to comment either way, yay or nay to this, but I think just to talk a little bit about the facts here. I think Melinda said it correctly. This is going to, the education freedom accounts increase our taxes. They pull money from our general education fund. But to be clear, it does not take away from what the state gives the public schools today. Because the way funding works is, if a student goes to public school today, they get roughly $5,000, or the state provides roughly $5,000 to that school board. There's some variation, but roughly speaking. If that student, before education freedom accounts, did not go to public school, that school board got $0. So the state had to pay nothing for that student whatsoever. What education freedom accounts did was said, the state is accountable for giving, if you signed up for it, the state is accountable for providing at least $5,000 for every student, whether they go to a public or private school. So it doesn't directly take away from public schools, but it does increase our taxes because it does have to come out of the general education fund.
Any other comments?
Will Rising. I think, and this is going to seem a bit targeted. Frank, I appreciate your comments on your reluctance to vote yes or no, but I think to the point that Chris stated earlier, the fact that we're not receiving information from the other side on how funds are being allocated or who's receiving them or how they're being used is exactly why he encourages us to vote yes on this article, in order to send a message to our state legislature that we would like to have that information. So I agree that it is very important that we vote yes, that we make it heard that we want to receive that information, we want to be informed about how our own tax dollars are being used to make sure that they're being used responsibly.
This is a public service announcement that Chris McAleer was at a select board meeting and this topic was on the agenda. So please, if something is going to come through in a petition warrant article, the best time to find out about it is before tonight's meeting. And I'm not, Frank, I hope I'm not insulting you personally, but really come to, like I've always said, please come to the budget meetings and the warrant article meetings so you can ask these questions and find out the answers. Always contact the select office or Chris, absolutely directly, or anyone, and find out the information that you need. So I always encourage people to be involved in the town. Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor of Article 17? Aye. Opposed? Article 17 passes. Article 18, to act upon any other business which may legally come before this meeting. Have a motion?
Point of order?
Yes.
That's the last article. Do you have the results from the fireworks?
Stand by. Thank you. Yes was 49, no was 92. So the motion does not pass.
Could you repeat it, please? Can you repeat that?
Sorry?
Could you repeat it, please?
Yes was 49, no was 92. Article 18, to act upon any other business which may legally come before this meeting. We had a motion and a second. Is there any comment on this? Hearing none. All in favor of Article 18? No? Against? Now, before I dissolve the meeting, I'd like to read the results of the election the other night. Selectman Bob Thompson, trustee of the cemeteries Barbara Terrio, trustee of the trust fund, write-in to be announced, supervisor of the checklist Gay Howell, library trustee Linda Terry, library trustee 1 year Bethany Taylor, town moderator Peter McGlynn, town treasurer Emily Porath. Article 2, yes. Article 3, yes. Article 4, yes. Article 5, yes. The Jackson School District. School board member, Foley Marsola, Thomas Sedale, thank you. Timothy Scott, school clerk, school treasurer, write-in to be announced, school moderator, write-in to be announced. And those people that are here would like to come forward to be sworn in, we can do that now. Can I have a motion to dissolve the meeting?
So moved.
All in favor? Second?
All in favor?
All in favor?
All in favor, get the hell out of here.
Thank you.
All in favor, stand up. My point is,